Hello everyone. Thank you for joining for today's webinar on best practices in OpenStack Scale-Out. My name is Amol Lonare, OpenStack Support Manager working at Red Hat Pune office. For today's session, we have Rohit Londe, who will be our presenter and will be the host for this session. Okay. During the session, we will, if you have any questions, please use Q&A section to post all your questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay. At the end of the session, we'll also hold a Q&A session wherein you'll get time to ask additional questions if you have during the session. So please make most out of the session. I would encourage all of you to put your questions if there are any. Right? With that, I will hand it over to Rohit. Rohit, over to you.
Thank you, Amol, for introducing me as well. Okay. So yeah, welcome to the session on best practices in OpenStack Scale-Out. My name is Rohit and I'm working as Senior OpenStack Engineer. So by looking at the title, many of you might be having a thought running at the back of your head about the two words, that is the best practices. Because there are other similar words which we often come across while dealing with any issues with support, like suggested methods or recommended ways and etc. So best practices are nothing but the recommended methods, that is the procedure which we fully tested by the engineering team, and after which we suggest the same to our customers. So these are nothing but the best practices. So before moving to the actual agenda, I wanted to talk about the necessity of scaling out the OpenStack environment. So, whenever we design any kind of cluster or cloud environment, okay, based on the requirement of the customer or the end user scenario, the node count is considered. So that is whatever solutions are proposed, those are considering a long-term perspective for the business or for the application need. Okay. So, but time comes when the planned things won't work and the business grows and there is more requirement for resources for processing. Okay. So at such circumstances, we can always choose a way to scale out the cloud without disturbing much thing. So this session is going to be about best practices in scaling the OpenStack compute nodes specifically. I know many of you already follow the official documentation for scaling your clouds, which we always suggest, and that is what expected from all the customer. So this session is going to be a basic level session, and we are not going to deep dive into advanced things, because the main aim of this session is to let you guys know about the fundamentals of the OpenStack scale out and its principles. And yes, the one more important thing over here is that whatever things we are going to discuss in this session, that will be considering OpenStack version 13 only. Okay, so here we go with the agenda. So if you see over here, I have pretty short agenda, but a meaningful agenda over here. So the first one goes with the scale out support for overcloud nodes. What are the supported factors considering the overcloud nodes? We'll be seeing that. Then the JSON file, which we use to enter the hardware details and getting it introspected. We'll see what is exactly JSON file. Then comes the introspection. Then comes the tagging of the nodes. Then node indexing. This is one of the interesting things which we'll be seeing in the upcoming slides. Then the last thing I have added it purposefully because I have seen customers which face common issues during scaling out their OpenStack environment. So I've covered those things as well, and we'll try to address how you can just avoid making such common or silly mistake or some kind of human errors and just save your time troubleshooting the environment. Moving to the next slide. So this slides talk about the scale out support for your overcloud nodes. Okay, so starting with the controller node. So the very first point tells us that controller node scale out is not supported. and I'm sure that most of you already aware about this fact. So it's not like that you cannot scale out controller nodes. So technically speaking and practically doing, yes, it is possible. But it will not be a good decision because you won't be able to achieve the purpose of scaling the controller node resources. So if you look at the purpose of controller node, what exactly it does in OpenStack environment, it hosts some bundled resources, that is the services, which remain available to serve the purpose like API calls and etc. So these services on controller node work in a fashion called as modes. So we have modes for these services called as active-active or active-passive mode. So for example, take an example of Galera. So Galera works in a master fashion. It will be in a master state on all the nodes. And if we take an example of RabbitMQ, it will be in a state called as master and slave. So no matter how many controller nodes you have, these services are going to be active only on one of the controller node at a time. And the other controller will hold the replica or the backup of this running services. Okay. So another point comes over here is how many number of nodes I can scale out or I can have in my production environment. So as far as production environment is considered, we always recommend to have 3 controller nodes in your environment. Next point is, it's obvious that the decision of number of controller nodes is has to be made during the deployment only and not after the deployment. But yeah, the last point talk about is you can always replace your controller node. So just in case if your hardware of the controller node gets failed, so you always have a procedure to replace that controller node. So anyway, we have a different procedure for replacement of the controller node, which we are not going to discuss at this moment. But I have added it as a reference in my last slide. Next is compute node. So when we talk about supported nodes for this compute node, so there is no count as such. The only requirement is you should have more than one node in your production environment for a compute node. And about the number of nodes you can have in your production is that, so I got some details from our performance and scale engineering that they were successfully able to test 300 compute nodes which were deployed using a director-based OpenStack environment. And also a recent update coming out is that they were also able to successfully scale out 500 compute nodes on an OpenStack environment. So this is the kind of big achievement where we can just scale out 500 compute nodes and have 500 compute nodes in our OpenStack environment. So next is the Ceph storage node. Yeah, so you can always scale your Ceph storage node considering you have a single Ceph storage node available. So these were the common nodes which we come across usually. So there are other overcloud nodes as well, like a block storage node or a object storage node or a network node even. But those are not that extensively used, so we are not going to focus on that. So our focus on this session will be particularly for compute node only. So let's move towards the next slide. So before talking about the exact scale out and its procedure, I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the steps which we usually follow while scaling out any OpenStack environment. So the steps are kind of, we create a JSON file first. Okay, the JSON file is a kind of a it contains all the hardware details which we use for registering. So this is the JSON file first. Then we use that JSON file to import. Okay, so this imports the template and register each node from the template into the director. Many people call it as a registration process also. So next comes the node introspection. Node introspection is nothing but a discovery of your hardware details, whatever you have imposed in the JSON file. Next comes the node tagging. So tagging nothing much, tagging these nodes to some particular profile. That is, a profile could be a compute or a controller or storage. This is what called as tagging. So we are going to see these terms exactly: node import, node introspection, node tagging in detail in the upcoming slide. So next is the node info.yaml. Obviously, when you're scaling, you just need to make sure that the particular count of that compute node is set in this node info file, and this file will be used in the deployment command. And the final is to rerun the deployment command, which you have used at your initial deployment phase. So these are the important steps which one has to consider while scaling out their OpenStack environment. Okay. So apart from this, there are other considerations as well, which one might needs to have a look over the documentation. So this consideration differs based on your requirement or based on your environment. But the above steps are the common for all. Moving to the next slide. So these are some of the validations which I have taken out based on my experience dealing with the customers and their environment. So what are the prerequisites or the validations which one needs to have considering their OpenStack scaling scenario? Okay. So very first thing is you need to make sure that your OpenStack environment is running up and healthy without any kind of problems. Okay, so the first check which all can do is check all your Docker services are properly running or not, especially the heat and the object storage service, Swift service. Okay, so next comes the bundle services from the pacemaker. Just make sure your RabbitMQ is properly working and the Galera is also up and working and in sync state. So the next is validating the templates. So this I have purposefully put because I have seen many issues with respect to templates, because this decision of scaling out the OpenStack environment comes after a certain period of time, and it's not just after the initial deployment. So between this timestamp, the environment might get accessed by multiple people or different admins, and they might make some kind of changes. It could be a human error as well. So it's always suggested to validate your templates using a heat template validate command or whatever method you prefer. So just validate your template and make sure they're up to date. And the very important thing is that you need to make sure there is at least some kind of free space, more than 10 GB of space free on your under cloud. So this space will be required by the director just for some kind of caching purpose or image provisioning purpose. Moving to the next slide. So it's the JSON file, as you can see, the file where we impose all the hardware details, the node which we wanted to scale out. Okay, so I will just go through all the parameters which are present in this file and let you know what is their importance. Okay, so the first parameter which you see over here is the MAC address. Okay, so this MAC address is nothing but the address of the network interface of the node. Use only for the MAC address for the provisioning NIC of your system. Then we have a CPU, it's the number of CPU on your node. Then we have memory, amount of memory in megabytes, that's MB, it's 6144 MB over here. Then 40 GB of disk, and we have x86 architecture. Okay, so whatever options we have discussed till now, these are kind of optional parameters, we can say, and you're good enough if you don't mention this parameter in your JSON file. The next comes the important parameter. Those are called as power management parameter. So The first is PM underscore type, that is power management type. This is called as IPMI. So many of you prefer using ILO or fake Pixie or UCS, that is Cisco Unified Computing System kind of parameter. Next, we have the power management user and the password. So user we have as a admin, and the password, whatever password you have kept for your IPMI device, that is the password over here. Then we have the PM address. So this is the IP address of your IPMI device. And the next is the deploy interface parameter. So this is the new parameter which is specifically used for a DCN purpose. So whenever you are deploying a remote compute node or scaling out a remote compute node, this is the parameter which you are supposed to impose in your JSON file. So it's like deploy underscore interface, and the option is direct. So once you are ready with this file, the next steps comes to import this file. So I'll be naming my file as new node.json file. Okay. So the entire command is OpenStack overcloud node import and new node.json file. So as said in my previous slide, this imports the template and registers each node from the template into the director. Okay. So once the registration or importing is done, you can just check out the specific node has been properly, successfully imported or not using the OpenStack bare metal node list command. And if you are sure that whatever things you see in the output are good enough, then you are good to move towards the introspection process. So let's move towards the next slide and let's see what is exactly introspection. Okay. So introspection is nothing but a discovery of your hardware properties of a node which are managed using your Ironic Inspector service. Okay. So this is an agent running on each node which collects hardware details of the new node and replies it back to the director node. So whatever data has been collected is stored into the Swift. So director has a Swift service running which takes care of this operation. Okay, and yes, you can do a single node introspection as well as a bulk introspection if you have more than one nodes to scale out. So there are some points which you need to consider for introspecting the nodes. I'll just explain them one by one. The first one is provisioning state. So what exactly provisioning state is? The provisioning state is nothing but there are two options for a provisioning state. It could be the manageable or available. So confirm was your node is in available state or manageable state, because the introspection happens only when the node is in manageable state. Okay, so this is the important thing which you need to consider before the introspection. Just make sure your node is in a manageable state. So next is the very important point I have purposefully mentioned over here, because I have seen issues coming out where people do manually stop the introspection process just because it is taking more time than the usual. Okay, so you might land into a situation where the introspection is taking time to complete and you cannot wait or want to get this somehow stopped. So there is a proper procedure to stop the introspection process. Okay, so what you need to do is you just need to stop the Ironic Inspector service, or there is an option in the inspector.conf file, that is etc ironic-inspector and inspector.conf file. So there is an option to set the time for this introspection process. So once you set this time, your the introspection will automatically get timed out after that particular time. Okay. Then next is the Swift service should be running, that is the storage service. So whatever data, introspection data will be collected, it will be collected in the object storage, that is the Swift. So you need to make sure that Swift is always running properly. So what are the precautions which one need to take in case if they lands into an introspection failure and now they need to troubleshoot? Okay. So in case of failure of introspection, first try to find out the ironic inspector log or the ironic conductor logs where you will get much evidence after about the failure, and accordingly you can just move towards the troubleshooting process. So this was about ironic inspector, sorry, introspection. Next comes the tagging. This is one of the important step which one needs to consider while tagging their profiles. Okay, so till now we have got this node registered and introspection as well. So now we need to tag this node into a specific profile. This is what called as a profile tagging. So role defines how to configure that particular compute node. Okay. So I have a command which I will just explain once I explain the automatic profile tagging. Okay. So jumping to the automatic profile tagging, we have discussed that the director stores introspection data into the object storage, that is the Swift. Okay. So you can create a different policies which will be used the details from the object storage. For example, you can create a policy to fail the introspection process if the memory or the disk is kind of low, or a policy to auto tag a node into a specific profile. So such kind of rules you can create and just impose into a policy file. So this policy file will nothing but a JSON file, normal file, where you can just impose all these rules. And once you are done with this file, you can simply import it using the OpenStack bare metal introspection role import command. So details about this automatic profile tagging has been there in the documentation, and I have also added a link for this process in the reference section. So you can have a look at that as well. Next, we'll be discussing about node indexing. So this is one of the very important thing which I assume in while we need to consider a environment which we are opting for scaling out. Okay. So what exactly node indexing is? Okay. So you all know what is exactly a primary key in database. Okay. So primary key is nothing but a pointer which refers to a particular field in the database. So similar to that funda, we can apply over here. It's about node indexing. Like every OpenStack node has a unique index value in the cluster. Let's just suppose I have 10 overcloud nodes in my environment. So that overcloud, all the 10 overcloud nodes will have unique index starting from 0 to 9. That is 10 index. Okay. So we'll see in detail what are those indexes, how to view those indexing, and what problem we might face into while dealing with this node indexing. Okay. So there are some orphan nodes as well. Orphan nodes are nothing but the nodes which are outside your cluster, or which you have manually make that node outside of your cluster. So the index value for all those nodes are considered as -1. Okay. So whenever you see a value like -1 for any kind of particular node, so just assume that that node is particularly outside of your cluster. It's nothing but an orphan node. So next thing comes is the important one, which I have sorted out based on my experience dealing with the customers. That is commonly seen issues while scaling out OpenStack environment. Okay, so these are just a few of the issues which I have seen and most of the customer just fall into these issues just because of improper knowledge of blacklisting or the improper knowledge of the node count and etc. So I'll just go through each of this point and explain you what are this. Okay, so first is blacklisting existing compute nodes and performing scale out. So what I am trying to explain over here is that you can exclude overcloud nodes from receiving an update during the deployment process. Okay, so this is useful in scenario where you aim to scale new node while excluding other existing nodes from receiving an update. So this update, or whatever update we get, these are from directly from the heat template. Okay, so in other words, the blacklisted nodes are isolated from the effects of stack operation. Okay, so why I am explicitly mention this point is that the reason is that I have seen customers just blacklist this node just because they don't want that node to get updated during stack update procedure. Okay, so again, this is not a good practice because one need to make sure that all the overcloud nodes are having the same set of updated parameters which are directly taken from the core heat template. Okay, so never blacklist any kind of node and perform any kind of scale out or stack operation. So second point still the same, do not use the blacklist using during update or upgrade procedures. So next is the reusing blacklisted node indexes in Red Hat OpenStack platform. So when I say blacklist is a kind of when I scale down some node, the index is still preserved in the database. Okay, suppose I have 4 nodes in my environment and I scale down one node. So there will be total 3 nodes in my environment. And the node which I scale down, so the index of that node will still be present in the database, heat database. So there are some requests which customer do, that is, I want to reuse this blacklisted index node for the next node which I'll be scaling out. Okay, so I have taken some snippet from my environment which will explain about what exactly blacklisting is, how exactly the nodes are blacklisted, and how one can just reuse that blacklisted node indexes. So the fourth point is using different NIC pair bonding from existing compute. So you might have a different pair of NIC bonding for a newly added compute node. Okay, so this process involves manually editing your network environment file, and many of us make mistake while actual MAC address, I mean mapping. So this involves updation of the network environment file, and the common mistake which we usually do is the mapping, that is the mapping of the NIC and the MAC address. So even many times it happens that the indentation is not correct, or some kind of extra colon or commas are added, and it leads to a failure in your scale out procedure. So in the coming reference section, I have added a knowledge base article which describes more about this implementation. Coming to the next slide. So if you can see over here in the next slide, this is a snippet which I took from my environment. Okay, so I'll just explain you what this command is and what I'm trying to grep over here and show you guys. Okay, so from the undercloud node, I'm executing command OpenStack stack show overcloud. So when you execute this command, you get a very huge output, just like a 10 to 20 page long output. So that's why I have greped some keywords like removal policies. Okay, so if you see over here, the very first thing, that is the compute OBS DPDK removal policies. Okay, so what it states, that it states some kind of resources, that is a list of resources. There are two numbers actually, 5 and 6. So these are nothing but the indexes of my nodes which are blacklisted or which are removed previously. Okay, and we have some other extra parameters like policies mode and the controller remover policies. Okay, so let's not talk about that, just focus upon this. Okay, so if you see over here, we have two numbers, that is nothing but the indexes 5 and 6. Okay, so let's consider these two numbers are my indexes from my overcloud nodes, and I want to reuse these indexes for my upcoming scale out operations. So what is the procedure? Can I do that? Is it feasible? How hard is that? So let's see that. Also, one more important thing I want to mention over here is that it might happen in some scenarios that the numbers, that is the indexes mentioned over there, might be different than the actual in the database. So you might need to confirm the indexes in the database directly. So I have directly entered into the heat database using a query. Okay, so I have just retrieved information for the blacklisted indexes, the node and the ID, including the values as well. Okay, so this is a long list query. You can just refer it. So the output states that the ID of that particular role name. So if you see over here in the name section, OVS compute OVS DPDK, this is nothing but the role. Okay, and it has specific ID. We can call it as a primary key as well. And the values are nothing but the 5 and 6. So this 5 and 6 are nothing but the indexes values of my previously deleted or scaled down nodes. Okay, 5 and 6. So in the next scale out operation, I need to use these values, that is the index values, for my next upcoming nodes. So how can I do that exactly? Okay, so the change which you need to make is obviously via the database itself. That is, you need to execute a update resource data query and set the value of the blacklist name as a empty double quotes and just mention the ID over there. Okay, so it is necessary to mention the empty double quotes because it will just omit those values. Okay, so once you just execute this command and recheck the value from the original heat command, you will see that these values gets omitted or deleted from the database itself. Okay, so in the next slide, I'll show you how exactly this happens after updating that heat resource, how the value gets cleared out. Coming to the next slide. So I have used the same query over here, which will list the ID, the value, and the role name. So the ID is the same over here, but I have updated the value with a empty double quotes. So that's why the indexes has been cleared out. Okay, so one thing, important thing I wanted to mention over here is that you are not supposed to make any kind of changes via database. Okay, because this is a very critical part. Let's say somehow if you just delete any value from this database which you are not supposed to do, so a single deletion of a value will just remove your entire compute node and the instances and the applications. Okay, so it's a always a disclaimer that whenever you are making any changes from the database level, always just connect with the support guys, OpenStack support guys, and just address, and they will address your queries. Okay, so if in case you have lab environments, it's good that you can do any kind of research stuff, but as far as production is concerned, never ever do any kind of changes via database. Moving to the next slide. So these are the references which I have put over here. So whatever things we have discussed in this session regarding the introspection or reusing the blacklisted nodes or using a different nick pair bonding or automatic profile tagging. So whatever stuffs we have discussed, So all those I have documented over here. So we have a link for the knowledge base articles. Okay, so it contains a issue addressed with a resolution section and a official documentation link as well, where the step-by-step procedure with detailed description. So if in case if you face any kind of issue in understanding any of the concept, just refer through this links and get it cleared down. Okay, so this was the end from my side, and we are good with the question and answer session. I'll just monitor the chat and address the question over here.
Thank you, Rohit. So I would encourage all of you to please post your questions, and then we'll take it from Q&A section. Thank you.
So I'll just check the first question by Amit. So CPU hyperthreading, if we enable CPU hyperthreading on BIOS level, does need does it need to change in OpenStack configuration? So I guess Ketan already addressed that question, but I'll just repeat it out for the larger audience. So the behavior will vary according to the compute type. If the compute uses huge pages and the CPU pinning, we will most likely need a scale-in, scale-out procedure to incorporate these changes. And for normal OBS compute nodes, the mentioned change should work well before after the BIOS config update and the node reboot. However, in the best interest, we suggest to recommend reaching out to Red Hat support so that we can evaluate the concerns and help you guys. Yeah.
If there are any other questions, please do put it on Q&A section, and then we'll address it.
Hello. Yeah. So we have one question from Paritosh, and the question says that if we are scaling out compute instance HA in existing environment, do we need to consider any special thing? So the very first requirement for enabling compute instance HA on an existing environment, by existing environment, we believe that you're saying on existing compute nodes. If that is not the case, please let us know. But considering the fact that you're saying existing environment, let us assume you're talking about existing compute nodes. And if you wish to do that, the very first thing you need is to have fencing agents enabled. So like you generate a fencing.yaml file for controllers, you will very well need it for compute nodes also, because that is the whole rationale behind having instance HA, that if there is an issue with that compute node, the controller based upon the IPML LAN adapters will fence that node, and that will trigger evacuation of those instances to another node. So that is one requirement. And the second requirement will be to pass certain services in the role file, wherein we mentioned that apart from the normal deployment, this compute would also act as HA compute node. So basically, we introduce a pacemaker remote service in that, which then communicates with the pacemaker service on controller nodes, and that is how the instance HA communication happens in this case, and then these node works out. So I hope that answers your question. And in order to, in terms of practicality or how it is done exactly with the help of fencing.yaml and the role files, I am giving you an article hopefully you can review it and let us know if you have further questions on that.
Yeah, thanks, Ketan, for addressing that.
So Rohit, we have another one from Amit, wherein he's asking about DPDK and how they differ from OVS. If you can, I know it is a very, very detailed topic and we cannot specify everything, but if you can just give a brief overview, I think. So I tried to answer, but I think it will be better to have a discussion on this.
So the question raised by Amit is what is DPDK and how they differ from OVS. Okay, so these two are completely different terminologies. Okay, so DPDK we are using for a fast packet processing purpose, and OVS is nothing but a virtual switch that is we called as a Open vSwitch, which is the default we get with this OpenStack environment. Okay, so these two things are completely different. I don't think so there is any relevant between DPDK and OVS. Okay, so on the other side of DPDK, we can have a compute node with DPDK enable. That is, we can set some kind of parameter for huge pages or some kind of parameter for CPU opening, like that stuff, and configure a DPDK compute node. So on the other side, OVS is nothing but it's a virtual switch which just passes on the flow and the packets, connects with your tab devices, all those things it does by OVS.
There's another question from Rohit. Does running scale out on production environment affect ongoing traffic? If scale out is failed, does this affect the deployed stack? If scale out failed, then what are the steps to revert back to old stack position?
Okay, I'll just reiterate the question. Okay, so does running OpenStack scale out on a production environment affect ongoing traffic? Okay, so the traffic could be at different level. Okay, so it could be a L2 level traffic or a L3 level traffic. So I can make sure that running this scale out operation should not impact any running traffic, because your instances are completely host on a virtual thing that is the compute node. So it should not impact. But we always suggest to carry out such major operations by taking some maintenance window and just informing your end users, because this is the kind of major operation that is you will be directly dealing with the director node and scaling out one more node in your OpenStack environment. So we always suggest, if you are carrying out some major operation, just take a maintenance window, proper maintenance window, and just make the scale out operation. Okay, so the next question is, if the scale out fails, does this affect the deployed stack? Okay, so the one line answer is no. Okay, so it will not affect your already deployed stack. The only change will happen is that the stack will go into a failed state, but it will not impact your any working load, any application. There will not be any kind of impact. So the third question is, if scale out failed, then what are the steps to revert back to the old stack position? Okay, so it's not like reverting back. So the thing is, you have to troubleshoot what exactly failed. Is it like due to some introspection or some YAML file went wrong, or you need to just troubleshoot and just go over. Okay.
Yes, adding to what Rohit has already answered about reverting back, in certain scenarios wherein, if we encounter a complex issue or probably, a bug related to environment specific, in some certain scenarios, we might, ask you to revert back to the DB backup and the undercloud DB backup. And if before running any scale out or stack update procedure, we usually recommend you to take database backup from the undercloud node. And in such situations, once we revert the database backup, the stack should automatically return to its previous position before running the scale out attempt. But then again, you need to verify certain things. It is not that you can simply apply the backup again or restore it. You should reach out to Red Hat support in such cases, and we can definitely recommend you the best way further. But a generic recommendation in all the use cases which you mentioned and then Rohit answered will be that you take DB backup before running any stack operation.
There is a question coming out from Neeraj. Is there any detailed documentation to learn OVS or any other references? Yeah, Neeraj, I have just posted you a link for the documentation, OSP 13 link. There is another question coming from Nawazish is, can we remove one controller from 3 controller and again add it back as third controller? So I don't understand why we need to remove one controller and just add it back. Okay, so there should be a reason behind removing. Okay, so as I said, we can always replace a controller node in case if there is any failure in your controller node, failure in the sense any hardware failure, and you need to replace that node itself. Okay, so you can always replace that node and get back your original host name or whatever stuff you were having previously on that node. Okay, so yes, the answer to your question is you can always replace the controller node. We have 10 more minutes, guys. The new question coming out is, can we run OSP with one controller node in worst condition? So the answer to your question, Amit, is that yes, you can always run one controller node and one compute node itself. But the thing is that as far as support policies are concerned and production environment is concerned, we recommend to have 3 control nodes. But you can always have a one control node and one compute node for testing purpose in your lab environment. There should not be any problem.
So we'll take one more question if there is any, and then we'll close this session.
Hi Rohit, I
Okay,
just
so
saw your question. Okay, sorry, Rohit, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, Ketan, you are addressing something?
Yes, I was just about to answer Rohit's question for scale out.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you can do that. You have to take care of the count. It is not like that you can attempt for only one at once. You have to import that node, introspect it, tag it to the respective profile, and increase the count for that node in the node info file or any file where you have mentioned the node count, and then you can issue the scale out command. And that should be fine.
So we have a couple of more questions, one from Neeraj and another one from Amit.
So Neeraj, regarding the steps for scaling out, I just posted a link for the official documentation. So it explains all the steps with a example. If you face any issue, you can just refer to that link.
All right. I think if there are no specific questions apart from this, we can probably close this session. Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Ketan, Fossil, for hosting the session. And thank you, everyone, for participating in this session. I'm pretty sure that it must have helped you to some great extent, right, in handling your day-to-day OpenStack operations. If you still need any help, right, please do reach out to support. Open a case for us, right? If you need any additional assistance, if you have any specific queries, right? Having said that, thank you again, and we will close this session for Q&A as well. And have a great day ahead, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.